Hey, this is Anney.
And Samantha.
And welcome to Stuff I Never Told You, a production of iHeartRadio. And today, as it comes out, is June 30th, which is the end of Pride Month, June 30th, 2025. And I hope that people had a great time and that you got to do some really fun things and hang out with some really cool people. That being said, we are doing a quick roundup of Pride-related news, and most of it's bad. And sadly, this is only a handful of what we could mention in a Monday Mini, and we're not going into too much detail on a lot of it. So just that caveat. But I figured we should go over some of these things. Starting with the continued attacks on the trans community here in the U.S. and elsewhere, but specifically here in the U.S. So we had the Supreme Court, which upheld Tennessee's ban on gender-affirming care for transgender youth, which is sort of setting up the stage for a lot of other states to do it as well. We've got the ban of trans people serving in the military. We have the administration threatening to sue California over a state law that allows for trans athletes to compete in sports. And then removing the T from government documents and websites so it's LGB, including the Stonewall National Park Service website. So that is something that we're going to have to be really vigilant about. This is a concentrated attack. Yeah.
It's so funny. It's gonna, I don't think this is going to land in like people speaking about it because it's too... No, it looks so weird. It looks like you're talking about someone specifically with the initials LGB. You know, like I'm like
Lyndon Johnson.
Yes, exactly what it would look like Lyndon B. Johnson. Like you're like, this doesn't make sense. And I'm glad for that. And we're going to remain like that because that's just seething anger. Continue.
Yes, seething anger. And again, that's only a handful of things, unfortunately. There's also continued attacks on Pride and the LGBTQ plus community at large. So there was the doing away with the specific funding for LGBTQ plus support on the suicide hotline, the National Suicide Hotline. Since its debuted in 2022, it received over 1 million calls. And this is happening as numbers indicate that suicidality goes up for trans and non-binary youth in states enacting restrictive laws that we're seeing happen. And numbers also indicate that the percentage of LGBTQ plus youth who experience suicidality within the past year is disturbingly high. So that's a pretty big thing too. And I mean, the thing is, like, it was you would call in, and if it was something specifically related to your identity or something, they would connect you with someone who was like a qualified person to help with that specific thing. So they're kind of just removing that. Also, they're canceling or relocating any Pride events at the Kennedy Center, which is like the main place for government events in Washington, D.C. There was like a way some people got around this, but the interim director of the Kennedy Center, Richard Grinnell, who is gay himself, said in a recent interview with Politico, "You go to a pride parade and it's embarrassing. It's real French and it's too sexual. And I think that we have to start critiquing ourselves. By the way, this opinion is extremely popular with normal gays. We shall return to this point of normal gays in a minute. But for now, put a pin in it." Yep. But this brings us to why intersectionality is important. Or at least that is one of the things I kept thinking about when I was researching this. So, for instance, we have, instead of Pride Month, the White House has dubbed June Title IX Month as another attack on trans women, claiming Title IX protects women and girls and keeps trans women from competing in women's sports. So this is like another way of kind of splitting marginalized peoples of, see, but we're protecting the women here.
At the same time, dismantling any like governmental organizations that are supposed to help women.
Yes.
and girls.
Exactly.
It's like, that doesn't make sense, bro.
That's like my whole thing. Like, you've just basically put into a nutshell the whole thing of this.
The like level of like, we care, we don't. We don't.
No,
we don't want you to exist.
We don't,
either.
but we will use this.
We'll pretend like we definitely care.
We will use this until we take it away from you as well.
Right.
So, straight pride. I also saw some things about this. We've talked about this before. The only reason I bring it up, that they are kind of laughably poorly attended, but they're very regularly embroiled with racism and other like sexism, other things, but like racism specifically. So I think this is another issue where we have to look at why these things are connected, why like the interest in being like straight white,
yes,
but
right,
nothing else.
Did you see that recent festival where the dude's like, it's a straight festival, everybody's so excited, and then we're having, I think they called it, I forgot what they called it. It wasn't just
hetero
pride.
Awesome Fest.
Yes. And then the one podcast was like, and there's no black people, and you're like, yeah, that's. Thank you. We're glad you said that out loud. Exactly. And then the person who created it was like, no, that's not what we meant. I'm just saying I wouldn't say that out loud. He didn't say out loud. He said, I wouldn't say that. But like person, like it was somebody who represented everything that happened there. And he was trying to like pretend like it was him. I was like, no, bro, that's what you meant.
Yeah. Well, there was another instance of exactly that where I think the funding behind, I believe it was in California, a straight pride event was brought into question. And it was at a city council meeting or something. And the organization was like, we're a peaceful racist group. And somebody like laughed aloud and was like, oh my God, you said it. You said it aloud.
Again, I think we talked about that at the very beginning of this new administration. It's like, at the very least, now we get to really see who we have to stay away from.
Yes. Speaking of the new administration, let's go back to this normal gaze thing.
Dear.
So I had actually never heard this term before in like the context of a thing. But when I heard it, I was like, I'm pretty sure I know exactly what they're talking about. And I was like, yep, okay, I got it. So we're talking about the rise of this conservative push to create a narrative of there being normal gays, which J.D. Vance said that they could get the normal gays vote in the election in an interview with Joe Rogan. And so if you're thinking, well, what, pray tell, is a normal gay? All right, so normal gays don't dye their hair. They don't have any pride-related items, and they would certainly never display them if they did. And they're conservative politically and think that Trump is right to erase pride and protect children from indoctrination. And from what I've seen are largely white men. I can't confirm that, but I from what I've seen.
Yes. I think this comes back to when we talked about like the pride events in Georgia and Atlanta specifically and why they're segregated events, essentially. Like this is that same level of like, no, but we do it in this classy way, in this way. They do it in this way. And like, obviously he's just talking about closeted gay people at this point. Again, where they were not doing it. They were fine with that as long as you weren't acknowledging that that's life, that this exists in general. Oh my God.
Well, yes. So it's also, we've talked about this a lot, but this is sort of the same, at least to me, this is sort of the same like proximity to white supremacy or proximity to power of I will be fine as long as I play along, as long as I don't get my pride flags out and make a big deal out of it. I'm definitely not a token. But there is a big group called the Log Cabin Republicans who are gay people who are conservative and are like, we're the new kind of conservative gay voices. And they have like a listing of what they have a whole article about being what a normal gay is. And they basically are like very wishy-washy is not the right word. They're saying in a nice way, like, we just want our money and our borders to be secure and all of those things. But yeah, if you want to look it up, you can. But it's a very us versus them argument. It's a very everyone else in the queer community who doesn't think like me is not a normal gay. But I am. All while the administration is whittling down rights that impact the entire queer community. And yes, it will impact you one day.
Yes, absolutely.
It will. I promise you it will. So that is some of the bad that's going on. But, Pride is about resistance. That's why it got started. Stonewall, like, if you want to learn more about the history of that, you can see the podcast that we've been talking about on the show, Afterlife Season 2. But it started out as resistance, and people are fighting in court at the local level and organizations that we mentioned in Feminists Around the World segments, for instance. Like, people are fighting. So I know it's been a rough Pride in a lot of ways, but we will keep going. And I really do. I've been happy to see people who celebrated and who still had joy during this Pride and are still keeping the fight going. So yes. Listeners, please let us know if there are any organizations or topics around this you would like us to come back to or shout out, or if you had just a fun Pride, let us know about it. You can email us at hello@stuffonevertoldyou.com. You can find us on Blue Sky Monster Podcast or on Instagram and TikTok at Stuff One Never Told You. We're also on YouTube, and we have a book you can get wherever you get your books. Thanks as always to our super producer Christina, our executive producer Maya, and our contributor Joey.
Thank you.
And thanks to you for listening. Stuff One Never Told You is a production by iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, you can check out the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.